Yesterday, April 7th, I spent the day at a rally at the state capitol here in Michigan, Lansing, along with my son David, who was one of the organizers of the rally. And there were similar rallies in all the contiguous United States. And the rallies were to raise awareness of what people with chronic pain are going through since the new CDC guidelines for prescribing opiates. There's no doubt that there's an opiate crisis in this country. But innocent people are being punished and damaged by the government, CDC, and doctors just because they're hurting. And they're being lumped into a group with all opiate users. It's grossly unfair. And many who suffer cannot get their meds any longer that they need to live a normal, functional life day by day. Well, I did a video I guess it's been about 6 months ago now, about my son David's experiences with the medical community, which are appalling. And I posted a video today of the rally yesterday. I'll try to remember to put both links in the description below. But I've said precious little about my own story because I am a chronic pain sufferer. And there's not a day goes by that I do not hurt to some degree, some days mild, some days extremely intense. I've been diagnosed with spinal stenosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and possible fibromyalgia. And 2 or 3 years ago now, I had a really fine doctor here in Saginaw, Dr. Paul Meyer, who has a great deal of compassion for people who are suffering in pain. And he prescribed medication that would help. And he had me on very low dose morphine and Percocet daily. And it helped. Well, because of the new regulations and rules and all that bullshit from the CDC and the professional medical community, he closed his office and stopped seeing patients. Well, that began a nightmare for me trying to find a doctor to replace him. The first one I went to after Dr. Meyer was at Covenant Health Center here in Saginaw in their resident program. I would never recommend anybody ever go to a resident program. There's too many people to go through, and they've all got to get their little fingers into what's going to be done with you. You know, women bitch about having control of their own bodies, like an abortion and whatever. It's time people stood up and bitched to have a right in their say about their own bodies and how they're treated for pain. Anyways, the resident that I went to there was very against opioids. But he had his supervising physician come in, and they agreed to write me for 2 weeks for opioids. And in the interim period, they would set up an appointment with a pain clinic for me to go to. And the doctor said something very funny to me. He said, it didn't seem so at the time, but in retrospect, it was very odd. And you'll see why as I go on. He told me, when you go see the pain doctor, he said, tell him that I said that if he'd authorize it, I will continue writing Norco for you. Why wouldn't that doctor communicate that himself? You don't leave that to the patient to do. But at any rate, I went to the pain management clinic in Flint Insight, and the first thing they did was, of course, a urine drop, and that was fine. And they gave me a pink paper, which was a copy of the request they sent to the lab for the urinalysis. So I had that, and then I went and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And close to 2 hours later, I was finally called back. I talked to I don't think she was a nurse. I think she was just like a secretary, pretending to be a nurse. But anyways, after she talked to me, the doctor came in. Looked like he wasn't old enough to be out of medical school, which didn't exactly instill confidence in me, but I had to give him a chance. He looked on the records and saw that I was right from Saginaw. And his first comment to me was, "Oh, you're from Saginaw. All you people want to do is come down here to Flint to get your drugs." And I looked at him and I said, "I haven't mentioned anything to you about drugs." And then he said, "Well, this is what we can do here." And he listed off a couple things, transdermal injections, whatever, and a few other things. And then he said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Well, you're the doctor. Why don't you tell me what the best course of action is to take to begin this?" And you know what he did profoundly? Shrugged his shoulders. Shrugged his shoulders. Well, it was obvious I was getting no place with him, and I didn't want to lose my temper, so I got up and I said, "Okay, thank you, doctor." And I left. I called the doctor at Covenant. I wanted to explain what happened, and of course you can't talk to the doctor on the phone. You have to always talk to his little lackey, the nurse. So as I talked to her, and like all of them, she had such a condescending attitude. And I explained to her that what happened there, and that I had told that doctor what I was supposed to tell him about if he agreed to the treatment with Norco. And she said, no doctor would tell you to do that. I don't believe the doctors told you to do that. And I said, "Well, he did." And she said, "Well, he's already told me to let you know he will not write for any more Norco for you." Okay. I said, "Well, can you at least ask him and tell him, that I did what he asked me to. I went there and asked him what he wants me to do now." So she said yes. She hung up. She called back a little bit later. She said, "Well, the doctor will not write for you anymore because you never showed up to the pain clinic." And I said, "I know what you're talking about, but I've got proof right here that I did. I have a dated copy of the order for the urinalysis." So that's not going to matter. We will believe that doctor over you. I said, "Even though I got paperwork showing that I was there?" "Yep. Yes, even though." So there I was in a bind again. Here I am hurting. And here I am with a condescending doctor, medical facility, and a nurse who could give a damn. Who couldn't give a single effing damn. So the quest was on to find another doctor, yet again. And I don't want to be a doctor shopper. I don't. But I had to find somebody. And I got the name of a nurse practitioner in St. Charles, Michigan. I'd like to give that nurse practitioner's name, but I don't know if the legalities involved in that, because she is a lying bitch. That's all I can say. I am so disgusted with the medical community that I'm holding back from losing my temper as I'm presenting this to you. Anyway, she was an understudy of a doctor there in St. Charles. And I heard that she was really great with people who were dealing with pain issues. So I made an appointment. I went to see her. And on that first visit, she was very nice. And I told her, see, the weekend before, a neighbor knew that I was hurting especially bad, and he brought over this little plastic strip, and he said, "If you put this under your tongue, Dennis, you will not hurt." And drugs were, I didn't know what it was, but I think I'd have almost tried anything at that point. So I snipped the strip into 3 pieces, and I used one of them. And I tell you what, within 45 minutes, there was no pain in my back and legs. And I found out that it was Suboxone. So, when I went to see that nurse practitioner that day, I was straight up front with her. I said, "Look," because she was going to do a urine drop, but I would have been honest with her anyway. So I told her what she would find with the Suboxone and the circumstances by which I took it. And she seemed really fine with that. Thanked me for telling her. She wrote me a prescription for a 30-day supply of Norco. And then she was going to go the road of the other doctor and have me see a pain management clinic. Plus, she was going to send me to a rheumatoid arthritis doctor to see if I might have fibromyalgia, which she never did do. But I said, fine, So she set up an appointment, and that appointment would be 3 months later. And with her, I was to have monthly appointments. So the next month, I went to her, and she got really a pissy attitude. She said, you know, I found Suboxone in your urine, or the lab did, and I reminded her that I told her. And she said, well, oh, also she had ordered a series of x-rays of my back, which had, the results had come in. And she said, well, I've looked at those x-rays, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You have no reason at all to hurt, and I will not give you any more pain medication of any kind. Whoa, you know? The question I put to her was, the doctor for the government a number of years ago was the one who put me on disability, and he did so because MRI and different things showed the spinal stenosis and a tendency toward rheumatoid arthritis. I said, those things don't usually heal themselves, do they? Well, no, they don't, but she said, you never had them in the first place. Okay. So I had to accept that, of course, and hope that I could survive until I see the pain doctor in 3 months. In 3 months. Well, I come to find out that you cannot tell from an x-ray if a person has spinal stenosis. It has to be an MRI. But she went on her little x-rays, and she went on her tirade about pretty much accusing me of being a drug seeker because I didn't have any condition that would cause pain. Well, I continued going to her in the interim next few months, and then it was only a couple days before the appointment with the pain doctor that she had set up that pain doctor's office called me and said, well, we can't see you because your doctor dropped you as a patient. And I was kind of stunned. I said, drop me? I said, I've heard nothing from her. I got no notification, nothing. And I said, well, she dropped you. And to this day, I still haven't gotten any notification from her, but that's the way she tends to operate from what I'm seeing. And subsequently, I've heard now that she's dropping patients left and right because because they need pain treatment. And so my search went on for a doctor, and I went for maybe 3 months without one. And I got another recommendation from a friend. You've got to go see Great Lakes Health. They're great. So I made the appointment, and I went to see the doctor at Great Lakes Health, and I won't say anything negative about her personally because she seems like a fine person. Dense, but fine. She said right off the bat, no, I will not, and I didn't ask her. This is the thing, I've never asked anybody to write for opiates for me. But she said, I will not write for you for pain. I will refer you to a pain clinic. Same song and dance there. So a month later, there's still no referral. And I was getting angry, so I called and lost my temper. And they finally set up the appointment with pain management, who was again in Flint, but not Insight. It's just a regular doctor, well, pain doctor, I mean. And that day she gave me that I saw her at Great Lakes, she gave me a shot of Toradol in the butt and what they call, come on, Dennis, what they call a steroid array, a fancy way of saying you start out with 6 and you work down to nothing. Purpose, I don't know, because it didn't do shit. Neither did the injection of Toradol. But anyways, at least she tried that. When it came time to go to the pain doctor in Flint, I went down there, and she's a little crippled up old lady that looks like she should be in pain management herself because she has a hard time even shuffling along. But what they do there is injections into the hip joint and injections into the back just below the tailbone, I believe it is. Well, she couldn't do that. She couldn't do the tailbone injection the first day because she has to have a current MRI before she would do that. And she had to have me change my insurance before she could do it. But that day that I was there, she gave me an injection into I think it was my right hip joint. And she wanted me to come back on the 10th of April. Well, she also wrote me, I give her credit for this, she wrote me, if I take that injection, she wrote for me for 20 Norco to do me one a day until April 10th, which is now 2 days away. The Norco helped. The shots didn't. or the shot that I got didn't. And the more I'm reading about the back injections, the more frightened I am to have them, because the results can be disastrous. And I asked my regular doctor about that, and she says, well, not any more disastrous than a pill can be. Okay. Well, a pill is not something you have to have a hole poked into your body, subject yourself to infection and bacteria. I don't think it's as dangerous as taking a pill under controlled circumstances. So that's where I am. I have a regular, well, she's not a full-fledged physician, she's a PA, and that will do nothing for me. And I have a pain doctor who is pushing her own agenda with the back injections, which I can't prove right now, but I've heard are not even FDA approved. And so I'm at this crossroad again. What do? Do I just give up? Say enough is enough and just suffer with the pain as best I can? Start taking street drugs? Start using whiskey or something? No, I'm not the kind of man that would do either. So I guess the only answer is to suffer in America anymore, because there is no compassion for anyone who suffers from chronic pain. If you have a doctor you've been with for a long time, they may prescribe for you. But if you don't, you're just shit out of luck. And you might as well plan on suffering. And I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Well, I wanted to put my story down. I hope that it has some significance to somebody out there. And thank you for listening. If you would like to hear more, see more videos from me, which I have an incredible variety here on my channel, and well over 9,000 videos now, please hit that subscribe button and be sure you click on the bell icon so you'll be notified when any new programs are uploaded to one of my favorite channels, my channel, the Dennis Morrison channel. Thank you all, and God bless you each richly. Good night.